The Paris Agreement, an international treaty on climate change adopted in 2015, has a long-term goal of limiting global warming to less than 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2030, although they'd prefer to keep it below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The agreement was ratified in 2016 by nearly every country worldwide, representing over 98% of global greenhouse gas emissions, or GHGs. To achieve this goal would require a 45% reduction in GHG emissions below 2010 levels, equivalent to 24 million tons, or 24 billion tons, of carbon dioxide equivalent. As a side note, greenhouse gas emissions consist of 7 direct gases. The majority, about 75%, is carbon dioxide, or CO2, 20% methane, CH4, and just 5% for the remaining 5 combined. For comparison purposes, all GHG gases are converted to CO2 equivalent. Anyway, in the years since ratification, while many regions are working towards or even exceeding their climate goal, others have fallen behind, such that Incorrys does not expect the ultimate target to be attainable. Globally, GHG emissions have been growing steadily for many years, with the growth rate accelerating since the turn of the century, reaching a record high of 48,000 million tons, or MTPA for short, of CO2 equivalent in 2019. Despite the decline in 2020, basically all related to the COVID pandemic, emissions continued the upward trajectory through 2022, peaking at almost 50,000 million tons of CO2e. Since 1990, global GHG emissions have increased by 50%, and are even up 10% since the Paris Agreement was ratified 8 years ago. Historically, the United States was the largest emitter of GHGs worldwide, increasing from under 6,500 million tons in 1990 to 7,500 million tons in 2007, about 20% of the global total. However, U.S. emissions have been trending downward ever since, dropping to under 6,400 million tons in 2022, about 11% of the world's total. Conversely, China has seen their GHG emissions more than quadruple over the same time span, from under 3,000 million tons in 1990, a 10% share, to over 14,000 million tons by 2019, 25% of the global total, although they did decline slightly in 2022 to 13,800 million tons. With emissions for the US and China going in opposite directions, China surpassed the US as the global leader in 2006, and today, China's emissions are double those of the US. Currently, the third largest GHG emitter is India, with emissions more than tripling from about 1,000 million tons in 1990 to 3,600 million tons in 2022, or a 3% share up to 6%. Rounding out the top 4 global emitters is Russia, whose GHG emissions declined from 2,800 million tons in 1990 to about 1,500 million tons in 2001, having since grown to 2,200 million tons in 2022, about 4% of the total. Combined, these top 4 emitters have seen their market share climb from 42% of the global total in 1990 to 52% in 2022. And for interest, Canada's total GHG emissions have increased from just 600 million tons in 1990 to 700 million tons in 2022, barely over 1% of the global total. The storyline changes somewhat when looking at the global emissions on a per capita basis. Qatar leads the world by a considerable margin, growing from 30 tons of CO2e in 1990 to 50 tons in 2005, before dropping to 38 tons in 2022. The US and Canada have the next highest GHG emissions per capita, averaging 24 tons of CO2 to under 20 by 2022. China has seen its GHG emissions per capita increase from just 2.5 tons of CO2e in 1990 to almost 10 in 2022. As mentioned, Incorrys does not expect the world to meet the targets set by the Paris Agreement. It is even less likely to occur since the Russian invasion of Ukraine over 2 years ago, which brought energy security to the forefront, surpassing the need to address climate change. The result is regions like China and India have actually been ramping up the use of high-emitting coal-fired power generation. It has also made obtaining viable information very challenging for recent years, due to the political sensitivity around emissions, as some countries may deviate from their initial plans and would prefer not to disclose their actual emissions to avoid being held accountable.